three major ways in which our surrounding might be holding us back from being the person we want to be, or from doing what we want to do, or from quitting the bad habits and behaviors we want to.
Welcome to Reclamation, the podcast where conversations meet practical insights, guiding you through the maze of behavioral science to empower better public health outcomes. With a passion for bridging the gap between medicine, psychology, and sociology, Tabo brings a unique perspective to every episode. Get ready to reclaim your understanding of health and behavior. This is Reclamation.
Welcome back to another episode of Reclamation. So, for somebody like me living with a chronic disease such as HIV, that means I have to take my medication every single day for life. And that can be a bit hard to do because it's not a normal thing. It's not everybody who's taking medication every day. It's not a natural way of life. So it's something that you have to be deliberate about doing in order to stay healthy and stay fit. So when I actually decided I wanted to get serious with doing this life thing, I went into a deep dive to figure out how I was going to ensure I take my medication every day. So I actually checked out the definitions of a habit and of behavior, because if you're like me, I even till date, I still use these words interchangeably. Is that a word? Yeah, I still use both of them the same way. So I found that the definition of a habit is the impulse to do a behavior with little or no conscious thought. So I was like, okay, so this is what I actually need to do in order for me to make sure I'm always taking my medication, because I'm going to be taking it for life. And a habit is like brushing our teeth every morning. That would count as a habit because you don't really give it thought and it's repetitive. And you're not really conscious about it. Well, at least for most of us, like you know that every morning you have to do that. So how was I going to get my mind and my brain to turn taking my medication every day into a habit? And I just discovered during that same period how the environment actually plays such a huge role in the habits you're trying to form, in behaviors you're trying to form, be it new healthy behaviors and habits, and even habits and behaviors that you're trying to avoid and stay away from. Sometimes the environment can just be working against you. So in this week's episode, we're going to uncover the hidden nudges in public spaces that can push us towards healthier habits or pull us into the unhealthy ones, and how even the smallest changes in your home can help create a healthier habit. And we'll also talk about why I chose to keep my medication right next to the socket in my room. So because you've already figured out from the last episode, willpower is never enough. There's so many things we want to do, but willpower is just never enough. If you haven't from the last episode, please go back, listen to the episode, and then you can continue with this one. So in the 1950s and 60s, scientists believed that addiction was all about the drug itself. They thought morphine was just a siren that caused people and people can't stay away and resist. So they set up these little tiny rat condos, or individual cages rather, each with a water dispenser containing morphine and other opiates. It was like a cocktail of drugs. And the rats had control over how much morphine they took, because there was a lever connected to each rat and they could push it according to how much they wanted into their system. And obviously, the rats got addicted because they would always keep pushing the lever and infusing more of the drug cocktail into their bodies. So they slapped up the morphine water like their life depended on it. In the 1970s, though, Dr. Bruce Alexander, a Canadian psychologist, was like, hold up. He looked at the the lonely morphine-sipping rats and thought, something smells fishy here. Or maybe it was just the rat pellets. Anyway, he decided to create a rat paradise, a rat park. So Dr. Alexander and his team created a large, comfortable environment for multiple rats. This environment was spacious with toys, tunnels, and other forms of social and physical stimulation. Everything a rat's heart desired, I guess. And the researchers, Dr. Alexander's team, believed that this setting was a closer representation of a rat's natural habitat than the standard laboratory cages that were always used. Now here's the twist. 2 groups of rats were used in the experiment. One group lived in the standard lab cages, isolated from the other rats, while the other group lived in the enriched environment of Rat Park, the one with the rats' heart desires. Both groups of rats were given access to 2 water bottles, one containing a solution of plain water, and the other was containing a solution of the water mixed with the cocaine and the other opiates, the drug cocktail. The rats could choose which solution to drink on their own accord. And the rats living in the enriched environment of Rat Park consumed significantly less of the drug cocktail than the rats that lived in the standard lab cages. So Dr. Alexander's team concluded that social and environmental factors in Rat Park, such as the social interactions and mental stimulation, played a crucial role in reducing the rats' inclination to self-administer the drugged water. I think this shows just how much impact the environment has on addiction, on substance abuse, and even in human behavior in general. So our environment, obviously, unlike the environment created by Dr. Alexander, the rat haven he created, the rat park, is far from stress-free. Like, it's almost impossible to recreate the perfect world, the utopia, where there's socialization and every of your heart's desires. Worse still, as far as I can tell, we will, for the foreseeable future, be unable to create such a utopia for most people on Earth. So we really have to work with what we have in a way, or change what we can change. And that's what we're talking about today. I like to believe there are 3 major ways in which our surrounding might be holding us back. Might be holding us back from being the person we want to be, or from doing what we want to do, or from quitting the bad habits and behaviors we want to. And I think it's very important for anybody who is actually trying to develop a new habit to be wary of these 3 things. I think you being aware about them and knowing how to go about them is very important for you to achieve the goal that you're trying to when it comes to health behavior and behavior change. The first one being the environmental triggers. Like, what around you, what in your environment is encouraging that behavior that you want to get rid of, that behavior that is affecting your health or your mental well-being. Like, what about your environment? What about your living room? What about your bedroom? What about your workplace? What about your classroom or your school or the paths you decide to take is actually enabling that? And that's something that we need to be really conscious of. It's like, what routes do you choose to take when you leave the office and head back home? Are you continuously using that exact same route which has that drive-through, and yet you're trying to avoid fast food? But you always end up, after a very busy, exhausted work day, right in front of the road that has a drive-through, and you pass there and make the same order every other day. So those are the small things in our environment that we don't really think of that might be actually enabling a habit you are trying to quit or to get rid of or to reduce on. So it's looking at your space, looking at the space in your home, looking at the spaces you spend your day at, looking at the places you choose to go to. How are they encouraging the behavior you're trying to achieve? How are they getting you closer to the version of the person you want to be? And how are they hindering that? And when you know that, you can actually try to do something within your power. And the second thing, actually, on the first part, I've just remembered a story I was told. So in this particular village, they had an issue with littering. So littering was a huge issue in this community, like plastic bottles, wrappers everywhere. And I think this is something a lot of us in Zambia, a lot of us in Lusaka can actually relate to. But then something changed. The community came together to paint murals on their buildings, celebrating their natural heritage, depicting scenes of clean, litter-free streets. And guess what happened? Just because of that facelift, littering rates dropped significantly. People started taking pride in their environment, keeping it clean for everyone to enjoy. So it was such a simple change as just the visual stimulation of the community, seeing how clean the buildings are looking and how attractive they are. And that was encouraging people to decide to also keep their streets clean and make sure that they actually place their plastic bottles and wrappers and the trash where it actually belongs. So that's a very small, it seems like a very small act, but you'd actually be surprised just how huge of a difference it makes in trying to get a group of people to behave in a certain way, or trying to get even you as an individual to behave in a certain way that you're actually trying to. The next point is the social norms and the peer pressure. Hey, guys, peer pressure isn't for teenagers only. A lot of times when we talk about peer pressure, we're thinking kids, we're thinking teenagers, adolescents, but peer pressure it's continuous. It's one constant through life. It's just that sometimes we deny just how much influence our peers, our friends, our family, our acquaintances have on us and the things we do. So social pressure really affects our choices. It's very hard to quit a habit when everybody around you is engaging in the same thing. It's very, very hard to stop taking a substance when the circle of friends you keep still indulge in that. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. It is possible, but it's extremely hard, and you want to make your life easier if it's something you're trying to cut down on. So it's what about the social norms and peer influence? How are those affecting or holding you back? Like at gatherings, you're faced with peer pressure to drink alcohol, you're faced with peer pressure to smoke, but you have to be prepared for that peer pressure, I guess, and find an escape plan or find a way of going about it. Is it finding circles of friends who do not indulge, or limiting the amount of time you spend with specific people or around certain people? It could be you just making a plan of what you are going to do when you are in that environment. I know the one thing that is hard for a lot of us is dieting, especially during the festive season. Very few people will tell you that the festive season is when they gained the most weight, especially here where we really take that serious. Like December is the time when the most alcohol is consumed, the most food is consumed, and it's so hard to stick to a diet plan if you're on a diet plan and you're trying to reduce your calorie intake or trying to avoid certain type of food. It's extremely hard. So it's you knowing to say this is going to happen. So what are we going to do about it? What is in my control? How can I go about it? Because now I know, because it's one thing to know, but then it's about what action am I going to take? Because I am aware of the social norms and the peer influence and how they are affecting and standing in the way of me being this person that I see myself being. And the third point is availability and accessibility. So this point is actually interesting because it takes me back to the rat pack, our little rat avengers. So, a lot of studies have shown that with most human beings, when it comes to healthy behaviors, if you are actually given both options in equal amounts, like the healthy behavior and the unhealthy one, and none of them is forced on you and it's just all things equal, a lot of the times, majority of the people would opt for the healthier option, the healthier habit, the healthier behavior, the healthier action. So a lot of the times, what the unhealthy habits that we indulge in, it's simply because you didn't have the healthier option pushed into your face as much as possible. So it's how often are you surrounding yourself with the healthy options? Like, are you in places where you can actually freely choose? Are all things equal? Or are you finding yourself in places where it's more convenient to have the unhealthy ones? Like the example I gave of using the route where there's a drive-through with fast food and you're actually trying to reduce on the fast food you're having. So that is accessibility and availability. Make it easier for yourself. Willpower is not enough. I keep repeating this. Willpower is not enough. Me wanting to take my medication every day is not enough. I need to also help myself. I need to think of future me. Like, I want to take my medication right now, but will I want to do it 6 hours from now when I'm actually supposed to take my medication? What am I doing to make it easier for future me? Future me could be me 6 hours from now. Future me could be me 2 days from now. Like, what am I actually doing to ensure that it's an easy option for me? The option is available. The option is accessible. So that's how I actually decided to keep my bottle of medication, my ARVs, near a socket. So I have a socket that is right by the dresser. It's very conveniently placed. And the one thing that I discovered I am consistent with, charging my phones at night. I rarely forget to charge my phones at night because I want to wake up and have my phone's on 100%. I am assured that I'll be on my phone, I'll be online, I'll be able to communicate the whole day. And as we discussed in the first episode, the results of instant gratification, like behaviors that give you instant gratification, are easier to maintain. So with me charging my phone, it's so much easier because I know the results of that. I'm going to reap them the very next day because I'm going to have a fully charged phones. And I'm also going to know to say the repercussions of not actually putting it on the charger means I get to move around without a charged phone. I am not able to communicate with my husband, with the nanny at home, with friends and family. And it's extremely inconvenient. So that was always going to push me to want to put my phone on the charger. And I think it has now turned into, it's a habit. It's something I don't think of. Immediately it's time for bed, I get into the room. What I'm doing is connecting my phone onto the charger, the socket, and charging it. So I discovered that usually when you're trying to develop a new behavior and turn it into a habit, it's so much easier if you're piggy banking on a habit that you already have. So the putting my phone on the charger is an existing habit that I've been doing for a very long time. So in order for me to remember to take my medication every single evening, I decided I'm going to place my drugs right at the socket. So that way, I never really think about, I have to take my drugs. But once I get into the room and it's time for bed and I'm connecting my phone onto the charger, what I see is my drugs. Then automatically I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do this as well. And that's how I have ensured that I take my drugs every single evening. Every single evening. So if I do not charge my phone that night, the chances are very high that I've not taken my medication, unfortunately. But it's made my life so much easier. It's something that I've eventually turned into a habit, or close to a habit, I guess. So that is me trying to manipulate my environment. I made it accessible. I've made it available. I've made it right, making sure it's right in my eyes before bedtime. And I've used a habit that already exists, one that has immediate gratification and immediate repercussions if I don't do it. Because, I mean, if I left it all to just taking the medication, the repercussions of not taking the medication, I'm not going to see them within a week or within a month. That's the thing. So this has really worked for me. So I'm urging a lot of you to think of what in your environment is working against you being the person you want to be, and what is actually helping you. What can you take advantage of? How can you change your personal space to encourage that habit that you're trying to form, to maintain that habit? It's not enough to want to. The willpower and motivation is not enough. It's really not enough. So how are you helping yourself to actually continue being or working towards being that person or the version that you want to be when it comes to your health, when it comes to your well-being? So there's actually a second part to Dr. Alexander's experiment. The rats, remember them, the rat pack? So Dr. Alexander wasn't done. Like, remember the experiment? He had the rats in the lab cage and he had the others in the rat pack. So he wondered, can we unaddict the addicted ones, the addicted rats? So what he did is he went further and he took the rats which had been in the lab cages, the typical lab cages, the ones that had been on the morphine bender for weeks. He gave them options of the plain water or maintaining the same morphine drug cocktail. And you'd be surprised how many of the rats opted for the plain water, even though they had already been addicted to the morphine and had turned into addicts. But once they were moved into the new environment where there was everything to play with, the socialization, the stimulation, the rats' heart desires, a lot of them opted to be taking the plain water, despite them having withdrawal symptoms that were unpleasant. So again, this actually reinforces just how much of the environment actually plays a role in behavior, in both forming new behaviors and in getting rid of bad behaviors. So our environments actually matter a lot. And we are not just chemical reactions. We are social creatures. Our cages, whether literal or metaphorical, they really do affect our behavior. Things like loneliness, stress, and disconnection, they are real villains. So as we navigate our own rat packs filled with screens, concrete jungles, and the Wi-Fi passwords, let's remember that connections actually heal and purpose empowers. And maybe, just maybe, we can unaddict ourselves by creating our own rat pack. Now, like we've already established, we can't control every single aspect of the environment and the effects it has on us. And to make matters even more complicated, we know that there are biological influences related to genetic differences, the neonatal birth-related circumstances, early nutrition, and all those, and how they can affect and alter brain mechanisms and make people more or less susceptible. This word always shows me flames, but yes, susceptible to the effects of trauma. So switching up your environment might not really be the silver bullet to behavior change, but it makes significant impact. So why not be deliberate about the parts of the environment that we can control? Because behavioral adaptation, it means people can change the way they act and what they do based on what's happening around them. When we're talking about addiction, it suggests that individuals can learn and pick up new, healthier habits to replace the ones linked to addiction. And that's the thing I'm always telling even the clients I'm seeing, that it's hard to get rid of a habit if you don't have something to replace it with. So this might include coming up with ways of handling stress, managing tough situations, and making healthier life choices. So that's just something I want you to think about at the end of this episode. Like how is your rat park looking like? How have you designed your rat park? And how can you design it further to help you achieve the goal that you want to? I hope this is something that actually gets a lot of us thinking and pushes you to design your own little rat park in the best way possible that you can. And that's the end of today's episode. Thank you for joining me till the very end. In the world of behavioral science, every ending is just the beginning of something new. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and stay tuned for more adventures in behavioral science as we continue our journey towards a healthier, more informed decision making. Until then, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay healthy. This is Tabo Lukato Hadonka signing off from Reclamation. Or cut down on screen time. Behavioral science has got your back. It's like having a secret weapon in the battle against bad habits. Now let's get real for a second. Change is hard.
Welcome to Reclamation, the podcast where conversations meet practical insights, guiding you through the maze of behavioral science to empower better public health outcomes. With a passion for bridging the gap between medicine, psychology, and sociology, Tabo brings a unique perspective to every episode. Get ready to reclaim your understanding of health and behavior. This is Reclamation.
Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the Reclamation podcast. I'm your host, Tabo Lukato Hadonka, and I'm coming to you from the heart of Zambia. Today marks not just the beginning of a podcast series, but the dawn of a journey we embark on together, a journey of understanding, change, and empowerment. As we navigate through the ebbs and flows of life, we often overlook the power that lies within us, the power to transform our behaviors for a healthier, happier existence. You see, this isn't just any podcast. This is a movement. It's a reclamation of our innate ability to shape our destinies through informed choices and deliberate actions. And I'm here to guide you through it all. Well, at least try to. But before we dive into the depths of behavioral science and its wonders, let me share a piece of my heart with you. For over 2 decades, I've been living with HIV, a journey that has taught me resilience, compassion, and most importantly, the significance of behavioral change. From taking my medication religiously to adopting a lifestyle that supports my well-being, every step has been a conscious choice. It's been a testament of how altering our behavior can indeed alter our lives. And that's pretty much what Reclamation is about. It's about reclaiming control over our health by understanding why we do what we do and how we can actually do it better. It's about bridging the gap between knowledge and action, because it's one thing to have the knowledge, but actually materialize what you know and turn it into action? Yeah. So whether you're here seeking inspiration, knowledge, or just good old-fashioned company, I promise you this: you live with a spark to ignite change within yourself and within your community. In each episode, we'll unravel the mysteries of human behavior. We'll explore how motivation works, why systems and culture plays such a pivotal role in shaping us, and how we can harness the power of behavioral science to enhance our lives. But yeah, more than that, we'll share stories, obviously. Stories of triumphs, stories of trials, stories that resonate with each one of us on a personal level. Because at the end of the day, it's our stories that bind us together in this shared human experience, hey? Okay, back to my story. So over 20 years ago, life threw me a curveball that no one could have seen coming. I was diagnosed with HIV. And this was a time when the world whispered about it in hushed tones. The future seemed like a distant dream. But here I am, 2 decades later. Not just surviving, but I don't know, am I thriving? But yeah, thriving, I guess. And I owe it all to understanding and harnessing the power of behavior change. With a little humor and a lot of determination, I decided that HIV was going to be a part of my story, but not the whole narrative. But it wasn't just about popping pills and calling it a day. Nope. This was going to be a full-on lifestyle makeover. We're talking diet changes, goodbye late-night pizza runs, right? But yeah, we're still working on that. Exercise too, because it turns out sweating is actually good for you. And through it all, I learned that behavior change is less about willpower and more about strategy. Because, we have the willpower to do a lot of things, but we somehow still do not execute them. So it's like playing chess with your habits. You've got to think 3 moves ahead and be ready to pivot when life puts you in check. Now, let's talk stigma. If HIV were a person, it would be the most misunderstood character in the story of life. So I made it my mission to set the record straight. Not just for me, but for everybody else living with this virus. We're not victims, we're victors. And if anyone has a problem with that, well, they can kindly take several seats. But humor aside, advocating for HIV awareness became more than just a passion. It's become my purpose. And I won't lie to you. There are days when the weight of it all feels too heavy to bear. Days when the fear creeps in. But, these are also the days when I usually discover just how strong I really am. You see, living with HIV is not just about managing the virus. It's about embracing life with all its ups and downs. It's about finding joy in the little things. A perfect cup of coffee, a good hair day, which I unfortunately can't relate to right now, or even just making somebody smile. And as for behavior change, well, it's become my superpower, I guess. It's allowed me to take control of my health narrative and write chapters filled with hope and healing. So here's what I want you to take away from my story. No matter what life throws at you, be it HIV or any other challenge, you have the power to change your behavior and change your life. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let's get into it. Behavioral science. So behavioral science isn't just academic jargon. It's the study of why we do what we do and how we can do it better. It's about making informed choices and taking deliberate actions that lead us towards healthier, happier lives and happier versions of ourselves. Imagine it as the GPS of human behavior. It helps us navigate why we do what we do and how we can do it better. So it's It's like having a personal life coach in your pocket, but obviously without that hefty price tag, eh? Now you might be thinking, behavioral science, this sounds complicated. But trust me, it's all around us. It's in the ways we choose our morning cereal, or the way we choose the route to take to work, or even how we decide to swipe left or right on that dating app. No judgment here. At its core, behavioral science is about understanding the mechanics of decision making. It's about figuring out the why behind our actions and using that knowledge to make positive changes. And here's the best part. You don't need a PhD to apply behavioral science in your life. All you need is a little curiosity and a willingness to experiment. So like you want to eat healthier? I mean, I've been struggling with eating healthier. So maybe try placing fruits and vegetables at eye level in your fridge. Like don't place them at the bottom where you can't easily see them. That might help and encourage you to eat healthier. Or are you looking to save money? Then set up an automatic transfer to your savings account every payday. For example, did you know that simply changing the wording on a sign can influence how many people wash their hands in a restroom? Yep, experiments have been made just from the different language and wording of a sign. The number of people who actually washed their hands after using the loo increases. Or that reducing the plate size can help combat overeating. So yep, behavioral science is that cool kid in class who knows all the tips and tricks. And let's face it, we could all use a little help in the decision-making department. Well, at least I know I could. I mean, who hasn't stood in front of an open fridge on a lazy morning, wondering if that leftover pizza counts as a balanced breakfast because it has some vegetables sprinkled on it? So whether you're trying to stick to a workout routine or cut down on screen time, behavioral science has got your back. It's like having a secret weapon in the battle against bad habits. Now let's get real for a second. Change is hard. Change is hard. It's like trying to teach an old dog new tricks, except the dog is us and the tricks are healthier habits. But here's the kicker. Change is also possible, and not just winning the lottery possible or your Betway ticket passing possible. No, but actually happening every day possible. But it's not just about physical steps. It's about mental shifts too. It's about rewiring our brains to embrace new patterns and say goodbye to the old ones. And trust me, our brains are more flexible than we give them credit for. Think about it this way. Every time you make a choice, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you want to be. So, like, if you want to be someone who exercises regularly, every workout is a vote. So you're actually casting a vote towards that version of the person you want to be. And sure, there will be days when you slip up, when the vote goes to procrastination party or binge watching Bonanza, because, I mean, I'd rather sit down in front of the screen than work out. But that's okay, because change isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Somebody told me that messy progress is okay. So the beauty of behavioral change is that it's not a one-size-fits-all deal. It's tailor-made to fit your particular life, your personalized goals, and your quirks. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. Transformation takes work. It's like building a muscle, eh? You've got to exercise it regularly. But it's just like any good workout. The results are worth it. And I'm not just talking about the toned abs, though that would be really nice too. So yeah, in this podcast, we're going to explore all things behavior, from the way we tackle public health issues in Zambia to how we can transform our personal lives for the better. We'll delve into topics like mental health, holistic well-being, and yes, even how to make those pesky New Year's resolutions stick. Because, yeah, how many resolutions go just like that in the drain? So each episode will bring you insights from experts in the field, practical tips you can apply to your daily life, and personal anecdotes from yours truly. Because let's face it, sometimes you've got to hear it from someone who's been there, right? So why reclamation? Because that's exactly what this journey is about. It's about taking back what's ours, our agency over our health choices and our ability to shape our own narratives. It's about shedding the stigma and embracing science as our ally in the quest for well-being. And if you're wondering what makes me qualified to lead this change, well, aside from my professional credentials and personal experience with HIV, I'm someone who believes in the transformative power of hope and action. I have seen firsthand how small changes can lead to big results. So trust me, bro. So whether you're tuning in from Lusaka or listening from halfway across the world, know that this podcast is for you. It's for anyone who's ever wanted to make a change but didn't know where to start. It's for those who are curious about the science behind our habits, and for those who are ready to take control of their health journey. Now, when you think public health, you might picture white lab coats, serious faces. But let's start with malaria, for example, our not-so-friendly neighborhood mosquito-borne disease. We've all heard the sleep under a mosquito net a million times. But let's be real. For me, when it is hot in the middle of October, it is hot enough to fry an egg on the pavement. That mosquito net, it feels like a sauna. So how do we encourage use? Enter behavioral science. So by understanding what motivates people, like comfort during those hot, sweaty nights, we can design better interventions and not just keep making noise about use a mosquito net, let's end malaria. But why stop at health? Like, behavioral science is also transforming how we drive. Yes, I'm looking at you, mister. I don't need a seatbelt. Or even how we save money, because who wants to get into Nkongole for Christmas? Like, let's start saving now. We have 5 more months. And it's even how we vote. The beauty of this approach is that it's not about dictating behavior. It's about understanding and then enhancing it. It's like having a conversation with the nation, but one where we listen first and then act. So, like, have you ever wondered why it's so hard to resist the second slice of cake? Like, you know, when you have cake in the fridge, like, I'll speak for myself. On my birthdays, there's a full cake and my husband doesn't really enjoy cake. It's very hard to control myself and tell myself I'm only going to have 1 slice in a day. That's almost impossible. We will eat that cake. I will. Let me not even say we. I will eat that cake for breakfast. I will eat it as a mid-morning snack. I will have a slice again just after lunch for dessert. I will have a slice again in the evening while watching a favorite TV show. So yeah, it's really hard to resist the second slice of cake even when you know you should be done. Or why we check our phones every 5 minutes. Well, behavioral science has the answers. And they are not as complicated as you might think. It actually turns out our brains are wired for instant gratification. That's why the cake is calling my name. And why social media notifications are like catnip. But here's the good news. We can rewire our brains. It's like updating your mental software. Right? But it's not just about self-improvement. It's about community improvement too. Imagine if we all used behavioral science to be a little kinder, or a little more patient, or a little more understanding. We'd be living in a utopia, eh? Or at least a friendlier neighborhood. So whether you're trying to drink more water, or spend less time in front of the screen, or using your phone less. Well, at least after this episode, of course, because don't decide you've had enough gadget time for the day when I need you to keep listening to this episode. But you just need to know that every step counts. Now, let's talk about these pesky habits we all want to kick. You know, the ones like biting your nails or hitting snooze one too many times. Behavioral science tells us that to break a habit, we need to replace it with a new one. So it's very hard to actually break a habit because I feel like you leave a vacuum, like you need something to fill up the vacuum. So instead of biting your nails, for example, how about drumming your fingers to the beat of your favorite song? And instead of hitting the snooze button, we put our alarms across the room and we turn waking up in the morning into a scavenger hunt. Like put your phone away from as far away from the bed so that you're forced to actually get up and turn it off. But has anyone actually tried that though? Because I really struggle with getting up in the morning. So has anybody, I know it's something that has been circulating for a bit. Has anybody given it a try? And has it actually worked out? Or have you found better ways of actually getting up early if you're like me who struggles to get up? Please leave a comment on if it actually helped you with getting up on time or if you found another way of getting up on time. And just like that, we're at the end of the first episode. Wow, you actually made it this far. I hope you now have an idea of what reclamation is about. If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share the love. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody about it. And thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for joining me till the very end. In the world of behavioral science, every ending is just the beginning of something new. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and stay tuned for more adventures in behavioral science as we continue our journey towards a healthier, more informed decision making. Until then, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay healthy. This is Tabo Lukato Hadunka signing off from Reclamation.